John Scott with Vic Carucci and Jonathan Acosta. A far more tougher afternoon at work for the Bills against the Saints. 31-19, ultimately the final here. They were over 2 touchdown favorites in this one. I don't know, trap game or whatever you want to call here. But, Vic, it was tough, like legitimately tough to nearly the end.
Yeah, and again, I think, first of all, kudos for the Bills to not fall so deeply into the trap that they end up blowing a game or losing a game that they had no business losing. And ultimately, while it might not have been by the margin a lot of people, especially the odds makers, thought it would have been, it still was comfortable enough because of a second half, more solid second half performance, I think, on both sides of the ball. But yes, you could go through what they did from the time they came out hot and scored a touchdown after taking the opening kickoff, between that time and then somewhere in the second half when they woke up again and then started to play like a team that, oh yeah, we're better than these guys. But yeah, I want to give the Saints at least a decent amount of credit for not coming in completely surrendering. They gave an effort, but yes, the Bills, for their part, showed some reasons to look at them and say, okay, you're 4-0, but there's some things here and there you still got to work on. I think maybe Sean McDermott loves it that way because now it's easier. Didn't they say it's easier to coach a team that has issues than one that's doing everything right?
I think Terrell Bernard said it best in the post-game locker room. They didn't play their best game, but they did enough to win. And I think a lot of the talking points are similar to what we sort of spoke about on the same field last Thursday night when they beat the Dolphins, a team that the Bills were favored by double digits over, and the game was maybe a lot closer when you're watching it than what you thought than what you expected. It's the Saints team that has talent on the offensive side of the ball. Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, although he had some drops in this game, Rashid Shaheed, Juwan Johnson, right? So it's a team that sort of like the Dolphins were coming in here sort of trying to keep their season alive. You could sense the Saints sort of playing with that same sense of urgency coming into this game. The Bills, again, to their credit, good teams just find a way to win, even when it's not always pretty, right? And it's the NFL. Any given Sunday. We saw it last week with the Packers losing to the Browns. This week, the Chargers lose on the road at the winless Giants, right? So I think I heard you say this earlier today, John, that there's no style points in the NFL like there is in college football, right? Just get the win, move on to the next game, and that's exactly what the Bills have been doing.
I love the perspective you can provide because you're on the field for these home games and most of the games on the road. The Miami game and this one, what were you hearing? What were you feeling? What were you sensing from the response and conversations from this Bills team here on the sidelines as they're not playing the best football they should and really grinding it against an opponent that most think is below them?
It's interesting because I never really sense or get a sense of this team sort of panicking, right? And something that they've talked about a lot with Josh Allen and sort of the calm that he provides to the team from the coaching staff, Sean McDermott, his demeanor and everything. So I'm a little bit frustrated with some of the calls we saw on the field. Obviously, the Bills flags, something that needs to be addressed. They had more penalties than they would like. But overall, there's just always seemingly a sense of calm with this team. And I remember asking Taron Johnson, I forget if it was after the Ravens game or after the Dolphins game, and I asked him, is it realistic to expect this team to always make the play when it needs to be made, especially defensively, getting a turnover? And he said it is realistic because it's something that we always find a way to do. This team got it today with that Cole Bishop interception at the end of the first half, or else the Saints would have gone into the break, potentially with the lead on this Bills team, right? But they get that interception from Cole Bishop. Josh Allen making the plays when they need him to, has that first down run on third down in the fourth quarter before hitting Dalton Kincaid on the touchdown pass. There's just seemingly a sense of calm because this is a team that's been there, done it, proves that they will make that play to win the game.
Yeah, and, for a coach who I think had been more tightly wound, I think, than maybe any coach in the league, but right up there, certainly, in Sean McDermott, listening to the way he handled this win afterward was kind of interesting and maybe even refreshing for him, guys, where he started talking about the beautiful day and the fans, right? Having a win on this sun splash, and it was gorgeous day for football, perfect day in Western New York. I mean, he really took the focus off of the fact that they had some struggles against a really bad football team, one of the worst teams in the league that they were supposed to roll over, and he takes that approach, and at the end of it, I mean, while touching on the penalties. They had 11 of them. While touching on some tackling issues, defensively, they had some problems there. Gap integrity, brought that up. He finishes off his thoughts by saying, it's still like a wonderful thing to have, I'm paraphrasing, but to get this win and winning in the NFL and how important this is. I mean, just reminding, I guess, those who are out there and many, maybe some who lost money because they bet the Bills to cover, but taking that approach that, okay, we're 4-0 as a team, and that's what the most important thing is.
Well, Sean, it's our job to talk about both sides of the coin. We're going to do just that. Let's start some positives on the offensive side of things because it started off really well, and once again, for a third straight game, the train was driven not by Josh Allen, but by James Cook, and you find that really noteworthy.
Yeah, I do, because it's now a trend that James Cook, that this running game is really the focal point of what this offense does. And this starts with Joe Brady. I don't think it's happening by accident. I think the way the Bills are looking at opponents and the way they looked at the Saints defense in this particular game is, okay, so much is going to be done to take away the best thing the Bills have on, not just on offense, in any phase, Josh Allen and his ability to throw the football, find receivers, confuse him, give him something to think about and hesitate. And, oh, by the way, take advantage of the fact that there still isn't a receiver on this team, and I don't think there's going to be, that's going to take the top off of what you do defensively. That's going to force you to change your coverage because there's such a speedy option that this team has. It is mostly underneath stuff. It is the subtle plays. And yes, there are big throws to like a Dalton Kincaid for a touchdown that cover a lot of ground. That was 28 yards. But it'll happen in the flow of an offense that will build to that, not an explosive 1-2 punch type of offense.
I totally agree. It feels like right now the bread and butter is the run game, and then you sort of accentuate it with the big plays in the pass game you'll get from Josh Allen. It's felt like in years past, Josh Allen was sort of the Superman for this Bills offense. But now this year feels more of like a Batman and a Robin, right? Where Josh Allen, he's the MVP, right? He's still the main guy for this team. But James Cook is really elevated. I think, what's the stat? I think the fourth running back with 100-plus yards and a touchdown in each of the first 4 games of the season. He doesn't seem to think that he's taken his play to another level. He just said this is his job. He's getting paid to do it, so he's going to do it to the best of his ability. But I think for the rest of us, we've seen him sort of elevate his game from as good as he was last year, tied for the league lead in rushing touchdowns, just the consistency, and not just the scoring, but the ability to get 4, 5, 6, 7 yards consistently, ground and pound, move the chains. I've noticed a different level to James Cook's play this season, and I think it's really benefited this Bills offense that has been susceptible, especially these past couple weeks, to sometimes get in a lull that they need to find a way to break out of.
Have you noticed that, both of you, that almost every press conference where Josh Allen is asked about James Cook, it's happening over, like, your thoughts on James Cook now. And I almost think he's thinking, geez, haven't I said almost everything I can say? He comes up with a great answer of some sort. He gets better every game. He's shot out of a cannon. I mean, it's Josh Allen being asked to heap praise on an offensive teammate, which I just find so interesting.
We have asked all of the offensive teammates to do the same thing about Josh for so many times, and they say there's a few things coming out of that. Cook's workload is elevating, and that was something that was in question when we were discussing certain dollar amounts when it comes to the new contract here. 19 carries, 22, which is, I believe, the third most he's ever had in a game in the regular season or the postseason in his career. He had 21. This was not a guy getting 20-plus rushing attempts, pretty much even dating back to the college days at Georgia. That is elevating. While his load is increasing, Ray Davis is almost obsolete at this point in time. I don't think it's problematic here. It's just you're seeing a shift of they usually like to do the collective and give kind of not even distribution. It's not a committee anymore. And from a wide receiver note, Curtis Samuel elevated and active and actually involved at least early for the first time this season. So the Bills running with 6 wide receivers here. Just one note, Brandon Codrington, a healthy inactive. So the kick return and punt return duties kind of distributed elsewhere. But just for some offensive kind of spin-offs to that conversation, just interesting to see, especially the Cook's workload increasing. Something I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't foresee or think needed to happen, but you feed the beast. And he's continuing to do more the more he gets the ball.
And you see the results when you don't feed the beast, when the beast is going, right? Because they had a possession where James Cook has a good first down run, and then the next 3 plays are a handoff to Tre'Davious, a handoff to Ty Johnson, and then a 4th down carry by Khalil Shakir, and you don't move the chains. And I think all of us in the stadium felt in that moment, if you're going to run the ball 3 times, why doesn't James Cook? Where's James Cook? He's been rolling all game, rolling all season. How do you not give the ball to him in this situation?
Yeah.
I think it's hard for Tre'Davious or Ty Johnson when they were so used to being such a bigger part of the offense last year to now come in here. They're coming in a little bit colder when they're getting their opportunities. So it just makes more sense to continue to feed Cook if that's the philosophy that you want to have on offense. Just really quickly for the Curtis Samuel thing too.
Yeah.
I think it makes a lot more sense for this Bills team that if you can have Curtis Samuel return kicks the way he was doing today, to have him as a game day active over Brandon Codrington, who just gives you that return element, Curtis Samuel being able to provide something in that, and then obviously in the passing game as well.
Yeah, and I want to see more of Samuel if you're going to have him and have him active. I'm still trying to wonder what the heck for 3 games that he's a healthy scratch, what that's all about. What's the real deep thinking there? We haven't gotten that answer. But one more thing about this offense and how it's evolving, I still think there is a lot to be said for what Joe Brady in that laboratory, right, with the other offensive coaches, is seeing and thinking about not only what the Bills, and I think they coach much more toward what they need to do to beat an opponent versus what they need to do to enhance themselves. Yes, you go back and you self scout and do all those things, but it's not training camp during the regular season. You're not trying to come up with necessarily new and drastic methods of how to execute as a team. It doesn't really work that way, but what is interesting to me is how they're looking at the opponents and I think the rest of the league and themselves and saying this is what we need to do to continue to be as effective as we are. And hey, through 4 games, 30 plus points per game, it's working.
It's working. I will just wrap up the offensive side of things. To me, these lulls that happened in the middle of the game are directly related to questionable play calling. And there are some execution issues as well. But I don't know how you can go the first 2 series seemingly with 0 resistance, blowing down the field, passes to Keon Coleman, passes to Khalil Shakir, running the ball with James Cook. I mean, they were doing everything in the bag that they wanted to. And then you just, poof, it goes away for 4 series in a row here. I know the other team gets paid. That's what oftentimes you will hear from guys in that room. And they ultimately still score over 30 points again, so it's hard to be overly critical. But I'm, again, just looking down the line of, like, I'm not asking and expecting them to score all the time. I just think that sometimes it's either getting too cute or not being aggressive enough and keeping their foot on the gas. Let's go to the defensive side of things, and we'll start positively. Cole Bishop has been a lightning rod of criticism throughout the entire offseason, leading up into the regular season in the Baltimore game in particular. The guy made an unbelievable play here that saved the game, maybe. I mean, I don't want to go too far here, but it was quite a swing.
It was a game-changing play. I could argue is the biggest play of the game to happen right over where over there from where we're standing, and for him to show the anticipation. It was a gadget play, right? So you have, a handoff to one receiver and then a handoff from that receiver to a second receiver, Chris Olave, who is making the throw. It's a receiver making a throw. So, okay, there is the possible glitch of a gadget play, and he's going to throw it to who? The quarterback, Spencer Rattler, who's an outstanding athlete on his own. And as Rattler is trying to make that effort to get behind the coverage, and he's just a step or 2 behind Cole Bishop, so he thinks, Cole has to do the only thing that was possible to be done to stop that ball from getting into Rattler's hands and then in for a touchdown, and that is leave his feet, and I mean he skied, right, and then gets his left hand up in the air and grabs that football. And athletically, that was the scouting report, right? Coming out of that Utah, he had that athletic ability. What we weren't seeing was a guy who knew what he was doing with that, or knew what to do with that athletic ability out here, and it seemed to, between injuries and everything else, slow down his development. Was this a turning point for him?
I think so, and here's where the vantage point of being on the sideline is very interesting, because when we're shooting with the camera, we're shooting very tight. It's not like a wide lens where you're seeing the whole play develop. You're mostly focused on who has the ball. So as I see Chris Olave get it, in the foreground, I see Spencer Rattler running, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they have this open. And so I see Chris Olave throw it, and I'm following the ball. And then out of nowhere in my lens is when I see Cole Bishop sky up to come up with the interception. It was sort of reminiscent of the way sort of Terrell Bernard just busted in front of the ball to get the interception against Miami. And I think, to your point, we've seen the athleticism out of Cole Bishop. It's sort of maybe almost the confidence in knowing what he's going to do that allows him to show off that athleticism. I think it's something that we've heard Bobby Babich talk about just in general this during the offseason, how when a player has the confidence and the knowledge in the playbook, it really allows their athleticism to flourish. I think that was a key example of that for Cole Bishop, because he talked about it in the post-game locker room, that he had two options right there, to either go to Rattler and sort of defend the pass right there, or go make a play on the ball. And I think it speaks to, again, the level of confidence that he's playing with, that he said, no, I'm going to go after the ball and go make this takeaway. I also think it's something that has to do with takeaways are contagious, and this Bills defense gets a lot of them, and we've seen them make some big ones so far this season. I think Cole Bishop saw Terrell Bernard do it before, and he's like, let me go make my own play.
It was a awesome play and a true illustration of the athleticism that drew them to make him a second-round pick, and why they're certainly were never going to just give up on him, but why they're willing to be a little more patient, because that's the type of guy that they need and want in that back end. We'll go to the not-so-good on the Bills' defense, and that was run defense and tackling, and they kind of went hand in hand. And unfortunately, this is a conversation the three of us have had after Bills games, even in victory, multiple times this season.
It feels like, okay, in a game like this, it's not going to bite them as hard as it could or will in other games. Now, what are those games on the schedule? I can't look at the schedule and tell you there's one that's going to say, oh yeah, that could be the one where the run game will be a problem. The fact that it came up as a potential issue and did its part to help keep a game that you wouldn't have thought would be as close as it was for as long as it was close, that was part of it. 189 rushing yards, right, by the Saints. Inexcusable, and it isn't. It's also the look of it all, getting pushed off the ball, looking like they're getting manhandled, like they can't physically match up with a team, with an offensive line. And, it's the Saints, and yes, when healthy, their line is pretty good, but I don't know. I mean, it's not, was it a group of all pros there consistently? I don't necessarily see it. I see this defensive front, though, as having issues when it comes to being technically sound at either, you heard Sean talk about it. He was asked about it, gap integrity. That isn't just a D-line thing. That's a linebacker issue. No Matt Milano in this game. Is that something to think about? No Ed Oliver. When you eliminate those two players, does that factor into it? We have to think to some degree it did. But for the long haul, is this going to prove to be a problem as it has been in other games?
It's interesting, Jonathan, because the theme of their upgrades and additions on the defensive front was size. So you would think stopping the run, maybe more so than the pass, and getting to the quarterback would have been shored up more when you're adding the monster Deion Walker, a still big man in TJ Sanders, and you're really emphasizing that side of things. And with those guys on the field, it's still not any better.
It almost feels like it's a microcosm of the whole defense, right? Where they're not consistently good, but you'll sometimes get some splash plays. Like Deion Walker, again, flashing today a couple times. I think he's been excellent, especially for a rookie fourth rounder. I think they've gotten everything and more that they could have hoped out of him through these first 4 weeks. But they have to be consistently better, especially in run defense, right? Because it's not like these teams are breaking off a 70, 80-yard run and then being held to 40, 50 yards the rest of the game. No, they're moving the chains consistently, right? Third down defense has been an issue. The Saints 5 of 13 today. Better for the Bills defense than it has been in other games, but still too many of them you feel like to where Bobby Babich shouldn't be comfortable with.
And they caught a break with the Brandon Cooks ball going through his arms. That was third and 13.
Yeah, so obviously, again, it's not just these teams converting 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. No, they're converting 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 10s, almost converting a 3rd and 13 for a touchdown against Spencer Rattler, who played fine in this game, but he's no Patrick Mahomes, he's no Lamar Jackson, he's no Joe Burrow, right? So this is really an offense that this defense should have performed better against. And I don't know if the answer is getting back the key pieces like Ed Oliver, Matt Milano, Michael Hoyt from suspension, but something's going to have to change because now we have a month of a sample size to look at this defense and say it's not good enough.
And coverage is a part of this discussion. And Tre'davious White, I know for his part, had some good moments, but there are moments, and there were moments that he was out of this game, right? And Dorian Strong was in this game. So you're dealing with an aging and a corner who is, while his vast experience and anticipation, all those things, instincts are very good, still physically, is he the guy that you want in there, play in and play out? I think the Bills know that could be something that compromises their defense. As a whole, is their coverage good enough? And while we can praise and talk about the great work that was done by Cole Bishop on that interception, that's one outstanding play, but as a whole, is the coverage doing its part to complement the front?
And you're leading me into something where we got Jackson saying we're like 3 minutes on the card still left, so we'll get through this here. Cornerback 2. Sean McDermott said after the game that Dorian Strong rotated in for Tre'davious White on a few series is something pre-planned, not dealing with how Tre'davious was playing today because they want to get more reps for Dorian Strong. Max Hairston, even though I do not believe he will come back, is eligible to return from injured reserve after this game, so this coming week. How do you see all of this playing out now? If they want to get a look, they're taking a concerted effort to see more of Dorian Strong, and we haven't seen the best of Tre'davious White.
No, you haven't yet, and I think Max Hairston factors into the at least not too distant future. In my mind, though, it's got to be a subtle, gradual thing. I don't think you can push him out there fully and expect great results.
And it's going to be interesting with the numbers thing because, like we mentioned before, you have Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi coming back from suspension. You add in Max Hairston coming back from injury, so there's going to be a little bit of a roster dynamic here that Brandon Beane's going to have to manage.
Tyler Bass also eligible to come off of injured reserve, so we will see what his status is. A lot of injury notes upcoming here. With Codrington being a healthy and active, I think that really puts his roster status in doubt as some of these moves have to be made. Jamarcus Ingram was also a healthy and active for this one, so as much as they like him and his versatility, he, with the Hairston maybe corresponding move, will potentially be someone that would be the odd man out in that situation as well. We will continue to monitor things. Bills hosting the Patriots Sunday Night Football next weekend, a game, of course, you'll see over on Channel 2, and we'll drink lots of coffee or 5-hour energies or whatever it is. Hopefully not as late as that Ravens game. Whew, we were up real
late,
past our bedtime. So Jonathan DaCosta, Vic Carucci, I'm John Scott for Channel 2 Sports.